I know a lot of you guys want to go straight to the NFL draft, but there's a crucial element in between the end of the season and the draft that a lot of you guys forget, and it's called NFL free agency. And the Detroit Lions made quite a bit of moves in between the draft and the end of the season last year. We brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We brought in Cam Sutton. We brought in Emmanuel Mosley. You know what I'm saying? So we were able to do some things in free agency that were good enough to change the dynamic of this team. And this is the best that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are going to be as far as financially. Draft capital, I wouldn't say it's the best, but the Matthew Stafford picks are done, and now we have our own picks and such. But this will be anywhere between, I've seen as low as $58 million and as high as 70 as far as cap space. And I think we're going to rank in top 10 in cap availability going into the 2020 for NFL free agency. Now, the first priority of business, in my opinion, is going to be to extend Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then it's going to be Jared Goff. And then we're going to take care of the in-house people. Brad Holmes has done this every year that he's been here. The first year, I didn't really understand it heading into that 2022 NFL season. Signed Alexander Zaloni, Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, just jumped in to the in-house people, and he's going to do the same thing there. And then after we see what's left, there will be some money available for us to bring in some outside free agents. Now, without any hesitation in my mind, I know the pass rush is quite unstable. I'm sorry, the secondary is quite unstable. We lost Emmanuel Mosley. C.J. Gardner-Johnson goes out for 98% of the season, and we took a hit in the secondary. Jerry Jacobs is not a number 2. He's a distant 3, if you ask me. So there's no doubt that either in the draft or free agency, there's going to be some moves that have to be made. Now, Brad Holmes surprised me last year. He went and made more than just one move. He brought in a Cam Sutton, kind of middle of the pack guy. He brought in a C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So he likes 1 and 2 year deals, right? So this guy is capable, and he didn't have the money that he has this year. So he's capable of bringing in multiple folks in order to make a dent in free agency, and then we'll do some cleanup work in the draft, so to speak, right? So there's a guy that I've had my eye on for about half the season. Now, you guys know I am a huge pass rusher guy. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. The Detroit Lions must address the pass rush because even though we need a secondary, you have to admit that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell addressed the secondary. We just took some hits. C.J. Gardner-Johnson gets injured. Emmanuel Mosley essentially never recovers, basically. Went from one ACL to the other, right? But that's not for a lack of Brad Holmes trying. But one spot he did not address was the pass rush. And there's no doubt in my mind that this has to be the first order of business after we do our cleanup work. Now, you guys know I am strong. I am very fond and adamant that we get an edge rusher. But if we are unable to get an edge rusher, but we're able to get somebody in the middle, a DT that can also get sacks, that will be sufficient enough for me. If we get somebody like an AJ Epinesa and an Andrew Van Ginkel to help clean up the outsides, but then we get somebody formidable on the defensive line in the middle who can get to the quarterback, then that is going to be a big deal. So there's a guy, a free agent, who may be able to be tagged when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens, but this guy right here is an absolute nightmare. Justin Madubuike. This guy is going to be a third-round pick in 2020. A lot of where this draft, a lot of folks have gone under the radar. This guy here just finished his 4th year. So, only first-round picks get 5th-year options. He had 38 solo tackles, okay? And out of those 38 solo tackles, literally 1/3 of them were sacks. He had 2 forced fumbles. If we look at his game logs for the 2023 season, he came out the gate. He got sacks in, he gets a sack in the first game, goes 2 without sacks, gets another sack, a half a sack, and then he went on this tear here. 2 sacks, 1 sack, 1 sack, 1 sack, 1 sack, 1 sack, half a sack, 1 sack, 1 sack. He went Unbelievable. Wait, hold on. Let me go back. So you mean to tell me that from October the 1st, if you take away, where we at here? Sacks. So October the 1st, where he got 1 sack, he went from October the 1st until almost 3 months, and he got a sack in every single game for 3 months. And this guy is a defensive tackle. Now, you might be like, well, Derrick, he's going to cost money. Yes, he is. And I've said this many, many times before. You get what you pay for. And I made a video earlier this week, a couple days ago. Will grit warriors be enough? There comes a time that you have to balance talent with grit. And does the person fit on the team? Now, Dan Campbell said, now this could all be speak. It could be. This could be his knee-jerk reaction. But him and Brad Holmes could talk and say, listen, I know we like grit. I know you have to, they are high on this stuff, but maybe they just look a little bit deeper to see if people actually fit this team with some actual talent. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I think grit, we have capped off. I think grit can only take you so far, and I think we've reached our ceiling when it comes to pure grit. We need it, but we also need somebody who is a force on this team. That is going to be the difference. That is the difference between the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. They have a Fred Warner. They have a Nick Bosa. They have a Javon Hargrave. They have guys, okay, that are more than just grit. And the Detroit Lions are going to have to open up a little bit, and they're going to have to get somebody on this team. Now, this guy, his market value is probably one of the cheapest I've seen for a defensive player, a defensive lineman. His market value is $20 million, 20.3. He would get a 4-year contract, $81 million. That would put him at $20 million a year. Now, I can already tell you that Brad Holmes is not going to he has not done a 4-year deal yet. Cam Sutton got a 3-year deal. I want to say it was $30-something million. David Montgomery, he's another guy that he brought in. So Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have brought in playmakers on this team. Like and each one of them guys, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley, Cam Sutton, David Montgomery, he's brought in some, and he had less to work with. I could see him bringing in, so we haven't seen a 4-year deal yet. That doesn't mean he won't do one. And you got to remember, too, that a lot of players are going to want to play for the Detroit Lions. Here's the crazy part. The Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions went the same distance. The Baltimore Ravens had the best record in the NFL. They had a bye week. They win a game against the Houston Texans, and they can't get past the Kansas City Chiefs. We won 2 playoff games. We won just as many playoff games as Lamar Jackson did in his entire career in one season, right? So we're going to be appealing. Plus, I hate to sound like this, but we're in the NFC. The NFC is a lot different than the AFC. You got to go through Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, up-and-coming Justin Herbert. So you got a gauntlet over there. The NFC is not that big of a gauntlet. You got the San Francisco 49ers. That's pretty much it. The Eagles don't know what they want to do. So an easier path might be the NFC. So we've got that happening. Now, here's why I think that the Detroit Lions could make a move for a defensive tackle. Shout out to my guy, Will Rock with Rocked On. He talks about a defensive tackle a lot, and you guys know that I'm an edge guy. At this point, I just want to make this defensive line better by any means necessary. If we could get, like I said earlier, maybe if we get a game changer somewhere on that defensive line, I wouldn't even care if it's the middle, then that's enough for me. If we put some cleanup pieces on the outside to help Hutch out, but this guy would help, and a strong interior defensive lineman would help this team out tremendously. Now, I was big on the fact that we traded up and we wasted all them picks on a guy who doesn't play, Broderick Martin. And we'll see if he takes a leap in his second offseason, if he takes a leap in order to be in the starting lineup. But even if he's not, we got a rotational piece. I want to show you guys this is how abysmal our defensive line was last year. All right, so I want you to look down here when it comes to sacks. Aiden Hutchinson is an edge rusher. He's a DE, okay, right here, and he had 11 and a half. The closest person to him was Aleem McNeil, who missed 4 games. Later in the season, he got 5. Now, I want you to pay attention to something. If you look at the DE, the next closest DE with a sack, okay, is Romeo Okwara, who will not be on this team next year. Then you got John Kaminsky. Let's look at it from a DT, a pure DT. They have Josh Pascal as a DE. I thought he was drafted as a DT. Benito Jones is the next closest labeled defensive tackle who has a sack outside of Aleem McNeil. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a problem. And that is why that the Detroit Lions are going to have to open up the wallet. And they're going to have to start to think outside of the box. Now, here's where we're at. If Brad Holmes has yet to sign a 4-year deal with anyone, let's hypothetically say he does a 3-year deal. And we saw that Justin's market value is $20 million a year. The Detroit Lions could do something where it's, put it in the comment section below. What would you sign Justin to? If you use Brad Holmes's logic and what he does, what would you sign him to? I'm going to say Brad Holmes could open up and go 4 years, but he'll probably go 3. His market value, maybe some type of winner's discount. I'm just going to throw that out there. Justin wants to win. He will be the guy over here. Like he's going to be the Ravens. He kind of just fits in over here. He's going to be a priority. I'm going to say Brad Holmes would sign him to a 3-year deal. I'm going to say 45 to 50 million with a bunch of incentives. That's what I'm going to say. So if his market value is 20 million, if he gets 3 years at, you're talking about that's 15, 16 million dollars a year to come to Detroit. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that Brad Holmes does either a 3-year, $15 million with a bunch of his incentives, or 4-year, $60 million, maybe $65 million. Okay. So that means that Brad Holmes would have to be able to, finesse that contract so that we can do all of these things that we need to do. So let me know in the comment section. I am all for, at this point, bolstering the defensive line in a way that you get to the quarterback. There's nothing else. Get to the quarterback, whether it's up the middle or it is up off the edge. And I'm going to be real with you. The middle is a liability because we saw Brock Purdy step up a ton of times and run in the middle. So if you got somebody formidable in there like a Justin Madubuike, then that's a big deal. So let me know in the comment section, what would you sign Justin for, and would you want this to happen? Let me know. Also, we hit 19.2 thousand subscribers today, or not today, but maybe yesterday. I'm sorry, I'm recovering from COVID. So and we are giving away the Detroit Lion when we hit 20,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate that. We are looking to, I'm trying to get to 35, 40,000 by the time the season kicks off. So that's a long way to go, but you guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.